The girl was known to everyone as a refined and dignified noble lady. Yet the very first time she met her teacher, she ordered him to clean the dirt from her feet. The teacher did not comply, and instead slapped her across the face without hesitation. Before coming here, Derek had already received permission from Ariel's father to deal with her however he saw fit. And the reason Derek held such authority stemmed from one thing: his identity as a beggar. In truth, Derek was a transmigrator, but only after arriving in this world did he realize he had become nothing more than a beggar himself. Even the mentor who taught him magic was merely an old beggar who loved to boast. The old man was no hidden master in disguise, just an ordinary one-star mage. The beggar needed admiration, and Derek needed to learn magic. Their interests aligned perfectly. Yet within a single year, Derek reached a level the old man had failed to attain in his entire lifetime. Instead of praising him, the old man began tearing down Derek's confidence. With your talent, 2-star magic is your limit. What carries you is bloodline, and no matter how hard you struggle, it's useless. In this world, mage nobles possessed overwhelming privileges, and most noble youths could reach the 3-star mage rank before even coming of age. That night felt unbearably long. Derek could not tell whether the old man was warning him or venting his resentment. But the next morning, Derek found the old man's corpse. His body was battered, covered in gruesome wounds from head to toe. At first, Derek thought the old man had been beaten after getting into a fight. But later he learned the truth. The old man had been beaten to death by guards after being caught stealing a 2-star grimoire from the warehouse. No one knew why a beggar doomed to never reach 2-star magic would risk his life for such a thing. For years after the old beggar's death, Derek met his second magic mentor, Tadia. She was the matriarch of the fallen Flameheart family, a 3-star mage who earned her living as a mercenary. At first, she merely offered some guidance to a young man who had joined a mercenary group at an early age and could already cast 1-star spells. Tadia taught Derek many things, not only magic, but also how to conduct himself in the world. What truly changed her attitude, however, was an unexpected incident. On the day Derek revealed his talent, Tadia did not hesitate and immediately took him to a deserted clearing. You already know how sensitive nobles are about their privileges, and magic is the greatest of them. Power is seen as a blessing, but only among nobles. Among commoners, even a 3-star mage is usually the result of an entire lifetime devoted to magic. And what you just used was a 2-star distortion type, spell known as auditory hallucination. From that point on, Tadia traveled with Derek, teaching him a wide array of spells. From time to time, she also spoke of the social circles she once belonged to when she was still a noble. After a year of such a life, Tadia left Earl Elbier's estate, leaving behind a 2-star grimoire. She vanished from Derek's life entirely. Afterward, Derek taught himself 2 additional 2-star spells. That year, he was only 16, and he had no intention of stopping there. It was also on that very day that Derek received a commission that would change his fate. He was hired as a private tutor by a count from a border nation, someone even the dukes of the capital dared not cross. For Derek, it was an offer he simply could not refuse. To become the magic tutor of such a noble was, for anyone, an extraordinary stroke of fortune. It turned out that the commission had come from Duke Duprien himself, a man infamous for spending money like water, ordering the subjugation of monsters along the outskirts of his territory. However, Derek immediately sensed that something was wrong. A family like the Dupriens had no reason to hire mercenaries to deal with monsters. Remembering the warnings given by the old beggar and Tadia, Derek initially rejected the commission outright. But the Duprien family offered far too much. Just the advance payment alone amounted to a full gold coin, and the supposed targets were nothing more than ordinary goblins. As Derek had suspected, the so-called subjugation mission was nothing but a lie. Their true objective was to find a magic tutor for the Duke's daughter of House Duprien. The 3 individuals who had appeared earlier were anything but ordinary. The old man was Delon, the chief steward of the Duprien estate. The woman was Katerina, the head housekeeper of the manor. And the final one was Etherlyn Eleanor, the eldest daughter of the Duprien family. Although Derek accepted the lucrative commission, he never let his guard down. After all, nobles like them had no real reason to hire a former mercenary as a teacher. Meanwhile, Reg burst into Duke Duprien's study. "Father, Valerian, brother, you have to see what's happening." "Reg, what do you think you're doing? Haven't I taught you to maintain proper decorum at all times?" "I'm not the one lacking decorum. It's Ariel. She's already started laying hands on the servants." "Lower your voice. Reg father is speaking with me right now. Just last month, more than 10 servants quit because they couldn't take it anymore. she smashes furniture whenever she feels like it. Father, how long are you going to keep indulging that loose cannon? Hearing this, Valerian, his elder brother, could no longer restrain himself. Enough. Leave now. I still have matters to discuss with Father. Father, the fact that Ariel is a loose cannon is beyond dispute. And we still have Etherlyn, don't we? I think it's time we gave up on Ariel. Listen carefully. Reg, this is not for you to decide. I've already had the steward inquire at the monastery. The facilities are excellent, and many noble children are sent there. Rather than letting her remain a burden to our family, it would be better to submit to the will of the gods. Left unchecked, someone like her will eventually become a stain upon our lineage. The moment Reg finished speaking, Duke Duprian seized him by the head and slammed it hard against the desk. I've already said this once. This is not for you to decide. When a decision must be made, it must be decisive. Meanwhile, Etherlyn had already led Derek into the ducal estate. Have you heard anything about my sister, Ariel? I've only ever seen her name on the Duprian family genealogy. Almost to herself, Etherlyn added, that explains it. She probably isn't very noticeable in the eyes of outsiders. At that moment, the two ran into Valerian and Reg as they exited the Duke's study. It's been a while, Etherlyn. How have you been an Elbeurist? Thank you for your concern. Brother, I've been doing well there. That's good. As you can see, Reg is a bit injured. We'll catch up another time. From their expressions alone, it was clear that an argument had just taken place inside the ducal residence. When Derek noticed a maid at the far end of the corridor, covering her face in tears, he already had a rough idea of what had happened. Soon after, the two entered Duke Duprian's study. Etherlyn exchanged a few customary words with her father before introducing him. Father, this is the magic tutor I brought back from Elbeurist. He's willing to teach Ariel. Yet, judging by the Duke's expression, he clearly did not take the matter seriously. Father, you must be busy. I'll take my leave for now. As she turned to go, the Duke stopped Derek and had him remain behind. You look quite young. Are you 16 this year? Yes. Remembering the etiquette Tadia had taught him, Derek answered calmly. The Duke studied him. What level of magic are you capable of using? I only have some proficiency with mental type magic. Don't lie. Excessive humility is hardly a virtue. Only then did Derek realize that in front of Duke Duprian, proficient in the 5 elemental schools of magic, humility would not suffice. If I've shown any discourtesy, I ask for your forgiveness. No matter, I understand why you acted as you did, but in my view, neither your age nor your credentials make you suitable as a magic tutor. Seeing this, Derek no longer tried to conceal. A T.my profession is that of a mercenary. Since you were personally chosen by Etherlyn, I shall not interfere. You are permitted to enter the villa where Ariel resides. That I'll have a maid guide you. You may leave now. May I ask you a few questions? Go ahead. Only after receiving the Grand Duke's tacit approval did Derek finally speak. As you know, I am a mercenary. Once I accept a commission, I see it through. Lady Etherlyn tasked me with helping Ariel learn magic and guiding her in a noble society. The Grand Duke regarded him coolly. Are those the questions you wish to ask? Matters that should be taken for granted? Precisely because of that, Derek replied, I hope your grace can grant me a certain degree of authority, so I may fulfill the commission properly. The moment those words were spoken, a subtle change finally appeared on Duke Duprian's face. At the same time, elsewhere, Ariel hurled another plate at a nearby maid. I'm terribly sorry, Lady Ariel. What good is an apology? Get out of my sight. If I see you again, I'll smash it right into your filthy face. Elsewhere, the mercenaries' guildmaster voiced his confusion. Why allow a commoner to serve as a noble's magic tutor? The Duke answered calmly, I've sought out every renowned magic instructor across the continent. All of them refused. I had no other choice. Though Mr. Derek is a mercenary, he is well versed in noble conduct and etiquette. His mentor was once a fallen noble. Those traits were likely learned from that source. I see. The guild master nodded. Though he is a mercenary, Mr. Derek carries himself with distinction, and he seems kind-hearted. Perhaps he truly can guide Ariel properly. A cold voice scoffed. Lady Etherlyn, your judgment may still be lacking. Derek grew up in the slums. He became a mercenary before he even knew better. Someone like that doesn't survive on grace or kindness. Meanwhile, under Delon's guidance, Derek arrived at the villa where Ariel resided. After knocking several times without receiving an answer, Derek opened the door to her room. Good day, Dunham. My name is Derek. I apologize for disturbing you. Ariel did not respond to his greeting. Instead, she simply beckoned him closer. The moment Derek stepped forward, a triumphant smile crept onto Ariel's lips. She then dumped an entire bucket of kitchen slop straight over Derek's face. Oops, my hand slipped. Ariel chuckled. I thought a rat had wandered in. Isn't this the mercenary the steward mentioned? Look closely. He really does resemble a rat. I prepared this especially for you. Does it remind you of where you came from? The stench of the sewers suits you perfectly. What a pity to them. Why carefully prepared gift ended up spilled all over the floor. Hearing those insults, Derek merely fixed his gaze on Ariel. That unflinching stare made Ariel feel an unexpected sense of discomfort. Without hesitation, she kicked Derek hard, sending him crashing to the floor. Don't you dare look at me like that. She even kicked off the shoe from that foot as she did so. Know your place, you filthy rat. You think someone like you can teach me? Didn't those commoners ever teach you common decency? Meanwhile, Duke Duprian sank into deep thought after the earlier conversation. The mercenary-born Derek had left far too strong an impression on him. The fact that I'm even sitting here proves Ariel's problem is not an easy one to solve. So allow me to ask you this, Your Grace. During the course of my instruction, how much authority are you willing to grant me? Back in the villa, Derek raised his hand and delivered a sharp, resounding slap to Ariel's face. There was no doubt, Ariel had never imagined anyone would dare treat her this way. She stared at Derek in disbelief. The burning pain on her cheek told her the truth. She had truly been struck. Only then did Derek speak, stand up. 3 years earlier, Derek had once asked Teddy a question. Teacher, what would you do if you encountered a student who was arrogant and ungrateful? Well, Tadia replied after some thought, I would try my best to understand and tolerate them. Isn't that a bit idealistic? If none of that works, teaching is meant to guide a student towards something better. If understanding and tolerance fail, then another method must be used. And what would that method be? Plant fear in their mind. Back in the present, Ariel still couldn't accept the fact that she had been struck by a mere mercenary. Derek's voice was calm and controlled, that I'll say this once. Learn to treat others with care and respect. Stand up. Yet the very first thing Ariel did after rising was slap Derek across the face. Who do you think you are? A mercenary daring to lecture me. Before she could finish, Derek's hand struck her again. I won't repeat myself, he said flatly. Treat others with care and respect. Seeing how bold Derek was, Ariel let out a bitter laugh instead. Steward, what are you all doing? This lowly bastard actually dared to hit me. At her call, Delon rushed into the room at once. Lady Ariel, are you hurt? What is the meaning of this? How could you lay hands on her? If the Duke were to find out. Before Delon could finish, Derek pulled out a document from his coat. By order of Duke Duprian, all matters arising during Ariel's education fall entirely under my authority. Any methods I employ are sanctioned by His Grace. Seeing the Duke's signature on the document, Delon was left momentarily speechless. Only then did Ariel realize that this tutor was far more troublesome than she had assumed. Not long after, news of Derek striking Ariel reached Valerian. Brother, calm down. The door was thrown open as Valerian entered, his gaze fixed sharply on Derek. Yes, oh, you're the mercenary. Derek offered no explanation. You actually dared to hit Ariel, Red shouted. Brother, calm down. At that moment, Derek finally spoke that I have Duke Duprian's authorization. He is a guest brought back by Etherlyn, Valerian said coldly. Acting this way puts her in an awkward position. More importantly, Father has already approved his methods. You, come with me. Valerian then turned to Reg, and you, Reg, stay out of this and attend to your own duties. I've heard about it too, Reg muttered. Ariel really does need a beating to learn some sense. Don't worry, brother, another voice said coldly. She won't hurt any of you. That one was a lost cause long ago. Don't expect to truly fix her. Not long after, Valerian led Derek to the room Ariel once occupied in the main estate. This was her room when she still lived here. It's been left vacant ever since. Derek looked around. Aside from the dolls one would expect in a young girl's room, the walls were filled with paintings. Ariel loved to draw, Valerian said quietly. Whenever she blushed and dragged me over to show me her work, she was unbelievably adorable. But most of her paintings were never finished. She'd stop once she completed the parts she liked most. I lost my composure earlier, Valerian said after a pause. Please accept my apology. Derek shook his head. It's fine. But why did you bring me here? I wanted you to see the real Ariel, Valerian replied heavily. She was never a child who trampled on others. Yet at some point, she became obsessively fixated on bloodlines. In the end, she was expelled from the main estate and confined to the villa. I don't know what changed her, but I can't let her be sent to a monastery. If she can master even a single otherworldly spell, I can persuade Father. Valerian lowered his head to oh, please, save Ariel. Faced with the sight of this proud, noble lowering himself, Derek simply waved it off. His attention shifted to a worn spell book on the desk, filled with handwritten notes. These are all law tribute theoretical texts, aren't they? Yes, Valerian nodded. That's what nobles are taught. As Derek scanned the notes, a hypothesis began to form in his mind. I'll do what I can, he said, handing the book back to Valerian. Later that night, while Ariel was still fast asleep in her room, a bucket of ice-cold water was suddenly dumped over her head. Standing by the bed was Derek. Can you still sleep now? What are you doing? Are you insane? Ariel screamed. Get up, come with me. Now, Derek said coldly. Have you lost your mind? Where are you taking me in the middle of the night? No matter how much Ariel struggled or shouted, not a single person dared to stop Derek. He dragged her straight out of the villa. After confirming there was no one around, Derek threw Ariel to the ground. She sneered through clenched teeth. You think this will change anything? Don't be ridiculous. Who do you think you are? Someone like you thinks they could teach me? Since there's no one around, Derek said calmly, how about I tell you an interesting truth? From the very beginning, I never intended to seriously teach you magic. Seeing the look on Derek's face, Ariel felt a chill crawl up her spine. Don't you find it ridiculous? Why would someone from the bottom of the barrel worship a noble tutor? It's nothing but a fancy title. W, what are you talking about? I never planned on being a magic tutor. Derek replied, evenly, I only needed a perfectly legitimate cover to deal with people like you. Do you know how real it sounds when those who think themselves untouchable finally feel fear? You think you can do something like this and still walk away unharmed? Of course I can. Derek shrugged. You'll be sent to a monastery soon enough. Who do you think would believe a word you say then? Even if something did happen, I'm just a commoner. Trading one commoner's fate to erase a noble's problem. That's hardly a loss. And if I chose to walk away right now, nothing would happen at all. After all, I'd be doing House Dupree a favor. In that instant, Ariel realized that if Derek truly took control, she might actually die here. Even escaping back to the villa wouldn't guarantee safety. He could simply drag her out again. So she made her decision. She had to lose him in the forest she knew so well that if she reached the ducal estate, the one who would die would be Derek. Just then, a blazing light flared behind her. She turned and saw Derek casting 2-star magic, Fireball, which meant that this 16-year-old mercenary was, at minimum, a 2-star mage. When the fireball exploded in front of her, Ariel collapsed onto the ground in terror. For the first time in her life, she truly felt how close death could be. Sorry, Derek said flatly. My hand slipped. Scrambling back to her feet, Ariel fled headlong into the dark forest. But because she kept watching Derek's movements, Ariel stumbled and fell hard to the ground. By the time she struggled back up, Derek's magical attacks were already closing in. And they were getting closer, fast. You move surprisingly well, Derek remarked calmly. Hardly what I'd expect from someone locked inside a villa all day. Seizing the moment while he spoke, Ariel ran again. She knew all too well that running endlessly wasn't a solution. Sooner or later, she would be caught. When she glanced back, Derek's attention seemed focused entirely on his magic sensing. By the time he looked up, Ariel had vanished into the forest. The woods before him matched the ones he had seen in her paintings exactly. He realized she must have played here since childhood, and the things she painted were, in truth, manifestations of the magic she instinctively felt. After sensing the flow of magic around him again, Derek became even more certain his earlier assumption was correct. Just then, Ariel leapt out of the bushes, clutching a stone. Unfortunately, with a casual flick of his finger, Derek shattered her last hope. Your resolve is commendable, he said. Knowing you couldn't escape, you chose to strike first. That takes guts. Crushed by both mental and physical exhaustion, Ariel no longer had the strength to run. Looks like you're done running, Derek said as he stepped closer. Anything you want to say? He advanced toward her, step by step. Do you think I'd apologize to you? Ariel sneered. Just kill me that I won't bow like those commoners. Then why? Derek asked suddenly, are you so obsessed with bloodline? The moment she heard those words, Ariel's body trembled violently. If that's all I have, then what's left of me? Aside from this noble blood, do I have anything else? Magic. Magic. Everyone keeps talking about magic. Do you think I didn't try? I did, but it just won't happen, and no matter how hard I try, it never works. What am I supposed to do? Whether it's magic or painting, I'm worse than everyone else. Without my bloodline, what do I even have? If even that is taken away, then what am I? I see, Derek said quietly. Then rest in peace. With that, he raised his sword. This time, Ariel didn't run. She stared straight into Derek's eyes. But to her shock, his blade was suddenly blocked by a wall of ice. Staring at the scene before her, Ariel couldn't believe her eyes. The one who had summoned the ice wall was no one else, but herself, the girl who had never been able to use magic. Ariel stood frozen in disbelief, unable to comprehend that she had awakened her mana under such circumstances. "You did well, my lady," Derek said as he lowered his sword. "Please forgive my earlier rudeness. Strictly speaking, this can't yet be called magic. It was merely the activation of mana. Even so, you did very well." At that moment, all the emotions that had been building up inside Ariel for so long finally poured out. "Based on my assessment," Derek continued, "you belong to the wild attribute." "The wild attribute? What does that mean?" "Most nobles are taught the structured attribute," he explained. "But in truth, all schools share the same essence. The difference lies in how magic is perceived and learned. Your wild attribute, Lady Ariel, that's why trying to learn magic through structured theories has only held you back." "And how do you know that I'm wild attribute?" "I've seen your paintings," Derek replied. "You sensed mana within nature itself and expressed it through the framework of your art. Most mages with wild attribute potential first sense mana from nature during childhood." "That's enough for today. You may go. For an initial awakening, this was decent, but you still have a long road ahead. Starting tomorrow, I'll teach you how to actively draw out mana." Just then, Ariel called out to him. Anyway, thank you. That painting, the one titled Dusk, was that your complete work?" "Which one?" Derek paused, then smiled faintly. "Yes, it was finished quite well that you're the first to realize it was already complete." Early the next morning, Ariel began trying to actively draw out her mana. Yet no matter how many times she tried, there was still no progress. On her way to find Derek, Ariel accidentally startled a passing maid. By sheer bad luck, the water in the maid's hands spilled onto Ariel's dress. In that instant, the maid nearly froze in terror. "I'm terribly sorry, Lady Ariel." Given Ariel's past behavior, a mistake like this would usually end in punishment. "I'm sorry, I've made a terrible mistake. Please forgive me just this once." But to the maid's shock, Ariel didn't explode. She only said calmly, "Be more careful." The maid could hardly believe it. Ariel had simply left after uttering those light words. "Are you okay? She didn't hit you, did she?" Another maid whispered that, "I'm fine. It seems something really happened when she went out last night." Meanwhile, Derek, who had been busy all night, was still fast asleep. A knock suddenly came at the door, followed by Ariel's voice. "Are you there?" "My lady, please observe proper etiquette," Delon said quietly. "Then tell me how to control the mana I triggered that I tried just now, but I still couldn't do it." Delon froze. He couldn't believe that after only one day, Ariel had triggered her mana awakening. "Didn't you say you'd teach me today?" "Then tell me already." "Come back this afternoon," Derek replied from behind the door before shutting it. While Delon was still overwhelmed with joy for Ariel, her expression had already darkened. "Who do you think you are, ordering me around? Open the door. Tell me now." Derek gave no response. He simply turned over and went back to sleep. "Did you hear? Lady Ariel didn't throw a single plate today. I even spilled water on her dress this morning, and she didn't even lay a finger on me. And I heard that Lady Ariel has already awakened her mana. Is that true? That tutor's only been here for a day, hasn't he?" Hearing this, Reg froze. "What were you just talking about?" Not long after, Valerian reported the matter truthfully to the Duke and Reg. "Ariel awakened her mana?" "Yes, Father," Valerian replied, "that I've confirmed it repeatedly with the butler and the servants." Duke Duprien paused his pen for the first time. "That is truly good news. It's only a mana awakening." Reg frowned. "Father, isn't it too early to draw conclusions?" "Reg," Valerian snapped. "Your sister awakened her mana. Even if you won't praise her, how can you say something like that? Have you forgotten everything she's done over the years?" Reg shot back. "Are we really canceling the monastery plan just because of this? That's far too hasty." While the two siblings argued over Ariel, the Duke simply picked up his pen again and continued reviewing documents, saying nothing more. Soon, the afternoon arrived. When Derek entered Ariel's room, she was sitting alone on the bed. "Are you pouting?" "I'm not sulking," Ariel said coldly. "That I'm angry." "Even if you were sulking, it won't change anything." I said. Ariel snapped. "I'm angry." "Whether you're angry or pouting," Derek replied calmly, "it won't affect the priority of my schedule. Everything has its sequence." At that, Ariel finally burst out. "I told you already. I'm not sulking, I'm angry." But when Ariel turned her head, she found herself staring straight into Derek's crimson eyes. She instinctively turned away. Just pretend I'm sulking then. If you start pushing yourself recklessly just because you've awakened mana, you'll collapse soon enough," Derek said calmly. That's from experience. Learning requires balance. Since you've rested enough, we'll begin mana activation." Yes, Ariel muttered. "What a rigid magic tutor. Are you saying," Derek asked, "that you prefer a less rigid teaching method?" In that instant, Ariel recalled the way she had awakened her mana. It certainly had been unconventional. But when she thought about the process, she quickly sat down. On second thought, let's not. Today we'll focus on mana activation, Derek continued. Once you can activate mana freely, learning first star magic should come naturally. The wild attribute never formed a complete learning system. Ironically, that makes it the most suitable for self-study. Compared to the structured attribute, we value freedom far more. To be honest, my lady, you're exceptionally well suited to the wild attribute. What does that mean? Exactly what it sounds like, Derek replied. Your free-spirited nature resonates strongly with it. And with the blood of House Duprien, your potential is peerless. The moment she heard that, Ariel seemed like a different person. Are you saying I'm talented? Yes, Derek said. You formed a defensive response at the moment of awakening. That alone proves you have talent. Oh, that means I'm a genius, right? Talent and genius are two different things, aren't they the same? No, fine, whatever you say. While the two of them were practicing mana activation, neither seemed to notice Rag standing outside the window. Judging by the look on his face, he was clearly displeased with Durla's awakening of mana. Over the next few days, Durla came to Derek every single day. Derek, I can already perform mana activation, but I still can't control the direction. Derek, look! There's cold air forming in my hand, but it feels strange somehow. Derek, listen to me. I can sense mana now, but this feeling is really weird. Derek, I've been looking for you all day. What are you doing here? Did you really think Father lent you those magic books just so you could study magic? Yes, Derek replied calmly. The Duke granted me permission to freely consult the magic books here. Then what's your angle? I already managed mana activation the way you taught me last time. Hurry up and take a look. That night, Valerian stood in his room, his expression unusually serious. I heard you were looking for me. You're here. Sit down, Valerian said. How has my sister Durla been lately? She's made significant progress, Derek answered. But it will still take some time before she can cast a first star magic. I see. My mother should be returning from the social season sometime next week. I need to warn you in advance, Valerian continued, that she's not someone easily deceived. While the people in the estate may seem accommodating for now, most nobles despise plebeians occupying positions of authority. You understand that, don't you, Derek? I'll keep that in mind, Derek replied. So, what's your angle in calling me here? Valerian stated that he was the next head of the Duprien family, and that a family head's duty was to care for and accommodate every member of the household, making it an immensely difficult responsibility. Valerian added that human hearts were unfathomably complex, and that it would be wonderful if everyone shared the same values and beliefs, but reality was never that kind. Valerian then asked Derek what exactly Derek wanted Valerian to say. Valerian said that Ariel was his dearest little sister, but she no longer played with him. Hearing that, Derek was left speechless. Valerian continued, asking if Derek remembered how Ariel used to smile and greet him when they were children, as vivid as yesterday, and whether anyone in the world could be more angelic than Ariel. Valerian asked Derek if Derek had any way to win Ariel's favor again. Derek asked why Valerian was asking him that, since Ariel had always liked following Valerian, and as Valerian himself had said, Ariel had been searching all over the estate for Derek lately. Valerian then asked Derek to take a look at something, saying he had learned it from one of the maids. Valerian suggested making a doll, asking if it looked exactly like adorable Ariel, and whether Ariel will be able to feel her brother's love through it. Derek, with blunt honesty, asked Lord Valerian whether Valerian was trying to place a hex on Ariel with that thing. Valerian snapped that Derek was completely useless. A week later, the Grand Duchess returned. The Grand Duchess said she had heard quite a lot about Derek, that the estate had hired a remarkably capable magic instructor, and introduced herself as Miliera de Belle Duprien. The Grand Duchess added that, if Derek did not mind, she wished to send a few gifts to the territory Derek belonged to. Derek replied that Derek was a man of no house. At those words, Miliera froze. Derek had no land, no house. He was merely a commoner. She found it hard to believe that the capable magic instructor everyone spoke of was nothing more than a low-born civilian. Upon realizing this, Miliera stormed into the Grand Duke's study without delay. You actually allowed a commoner to serve as Ariel's magic instructor. What exactly were you thinking? The Grand Duke frowned and replied that his hearing was perfectly fine, and there was no need for her to raise her voice. Miliera shot back coldly that this was not the issue. The issue was Ariel, their precious youngest daughter. The Grand Duke explained that while he did not favor employing commoners, every noble instructor of proper lineage had already withdrawn. Even so, Miliera insisted that letting a street-hardened mercenary teach Ariel was unacceptable, especially when finding a suitable magic instructor was no easy task. The Grand Duke added that Derek had come highly recommended by Etherlyn herself. Meliora countered that even then, there should have been a minimum standard. Why not invite your own younger brother instead? She went on to say that he had only declined before due to being busy, but that circumstances were different now. Ariel had already awakened her mana, yet he was assigning a border defense officer as her private tutor. Did he truly believe managing and governing an estate was such a trivial matter? Meliora pressed further, asking about the Elber social season and whether he thought navigating high society was any easier. That world was a battlefield in its own right, and instructors shaped everything that followed. Yet he had chosen a nameless commoner with no house, setting Ariel up to become a social pariah the moment she entered noble society. At that moment, Valerian also entered the study. "Mother, please calm down. You didn't come here just to argue with father, did you? Step aside, Valerian. This matter cannot be brushed aside so easily. Does that commoner truly have the qualifications to serve as Ariel's magic tutor? That is the real question, is it not?" The moment Meliora saw Reg, a trace of relief appeared in her eyes. A mere commoner becoming a noble's magic tutor is hardly an ordinary situation. If that commoner truly possesses the necessary aptitude, then I see no fundamental issue with it. "Father, I am willing to test Derek's abilities myself, that if I can defeat him in a magic duel." Enough. From a mage's perspective, he is indeed very strong. The instant those words were spoken, Reg fell silent. "Then allow me to test Ariel instead." Only then did Valerian realize that Reg seemed to be harboring a deep-seated animosity toward his own sister. If Derek truly is a capable teacher, then as a student, Ariel should have already shown tangible progress. I am willing to determine his qualifications by engaging Ariel in a magic duel. After a brief hesitation, the Grand Duke ultimately agreed to Reg's proposal. Once they left the study, Valerian immediately caught up with Reg, who had gone ahead. "What are you really thinking? Why insist on a magic duel with Ariel? Brother, do you truly believe Ariel has turned over a new leaf? Have you already forgotten everything she did in the past? But no matter what, she is still your only sister, our own blood, whom we are meant to shield and endure. That so-called blood relative of yours will destroy our family sooner or later. Haven't the things she's done already proven that? If she's allowed into high society, that will be the real disaster. Is that truly what you believe?" Reg said coldly. The one who crossed the line first was Ariel. She should have been confined to the villa from the very beginning. Caught between his younger brother and his younger sister, Valerian found himself at a loss. Not long after, Ariel, having learned of the decision, went straight to Derek. "You're in quite a hurry this early in the morning. What happened this time?" Ariel didn't answer. She simply tossed a document onto the table in front of Derek. "If I lose this magic duel, you'll be dismissed. I've already heard that young Master Reg is a first-star mage," Derek said calmly. "This duel won't be easy, that all you came say? If I lose, you're the one who'll be dismissed." "I'm a mercenary," Derek replied evenly. "As long as the commission is fulfilled and the gold is in my pocket, that's enough. And so far, I've already been paid more than enough." Hearing that, Ariel froze. "Are you serious?" A week passed in the blink of an eye, and the day of the magic duel between Ariel and Reg finally arrived. With the exception of Etherlyn, who was away from the estate, nearly every member of the Duprian family was present. "You've arrived." Upon seeing the Grand Duke, Derek offered a routine bow. From Derek's demeanor alone, it was clear that he wasn't nervous in the slightest. That alone made the Grand Duke suspect he was confident. In the Grand Duke's eyes, the fact that Derek could remain so composed under these circumstances made dismissing him pagamento seem unwise. What no one knew, however, was that to Reg, this was no ordinary duel. He intended to use this opportunity to completely destroy Ariel. Meanwhile, Ariel, participating in a magic duel for the first time, held an unusually resolute gaze. Time rewound to that afternoon when she spoke with Derek. "So, you won't interfere beyond that? You can feel it yourself, miss," Derek said calmly. "Your mana growth has already stabilized. You may not be able to cast first-star magic just yet, but given time, you will. After all, you carry the blood of House Duprian. Why are you suddenly saying all this? I already told you, the wild attribute has always been a path well suited for self-learning." Hearing that, Ariel was on the verge of tears. "Oh what? Why are you telling me this now?" "Derek, I know I'm not a good student, but I still want to keep learning magic from you that I don't want anyone else to teach me. Let me be clear," Derek said calmly, "that I don't understand the etiquette or formal rules of noble magic duels, nor have I ever taken part in them. But I can tell you how to win a fight." In that instant, Ariel recalled the words she had once overheard. How could someone like that come from House Duprian? With siblings that capable, it looks like the family is headed for decline. As those voices echoed in her mind, Ariel's gaze slowly hardened. I want to win that I will WINT that moment. Ariel stood there not as Reg's younger sister, but as Derek's student, and as a mage forging her own path. It's starting. The magic duel between Ariel and Reg had officially begun. Watching Ariel step onto the dueling platform, Reg felt an odd sense of unease. Was she really standing there with the resolve to win? As their gazes met, Delon's voice rang out from the side. Both parties, prepare for the duel. This duel will follow the Kelverum Salon Advanced Mage Duel Protocol, with General Palorum's Aegis fully active. The first to trigger the protection is deemed defeated. Final reminder, prepare yourselves. The duel begins. General Palorum's Aegis activates automatically just before the wearer suffers a critical blow, nullifying the opponent's magic. Derek couldn't help but think that he had always wondered how nobles fought, using such outrageously expensive trinkets as training gear. IT really did seem like they had money to burn. The barrier lasted for 10 minutes. Reg clearly intended to finish the fight before that window closed. He had no intention of accepting a draw, which was why he took this magic duel so seriously. The moment the duel began, Reg gathered mana in his palm and began chanting. Yet while Reg was preparing his spell, Ariel remained perfectly still, her gaze locked firmly onto him. One of the key factors in a magic duel was chant speed in long-range combat. Whoever finished chanting first usually held the advantage. And in Reg's mind, dealing with Ariel required nothing more than a single first-star magic spell. Sorry, he thought, but you're going back to that villa. The instant his chant ended, first-star magic. Gale Blade tore through the air toward Ariel. From Reg's perspective, there was no way the sluggish Ariel could evade the attack. He could already picture it. Gale Blade triggering the protective barrier and Ariel being sent straight back to the villa. What he failed to notice was the unwavering resolve in the eyes of the girl he deemed a threat to the family. At that very moment, Ariel lowered her stance and burst sideways, a rare display of agility from her. There was no doubt about it. The change Ariel displayed far exceeded Reg's expectations. Don't think you can run. Grinding his teeth, Reg forcibly channeled more mana and altered the Gale Blade's trajectory. The blade curved midair and surged after Ariel once again. In Reg's understanding, a girl confined to a villa for years could never match an ordinary person's stamina. But had Reg seen Ariel's expression at that moment, his assumptions would have shattered instantly. Though Reg was proficient in multi-attribute magic, he was still a novice when it came to real combat. Forcing a spell to change trajectory only drained mana at an accelerated rate. Just as Reg thought Ariel couldn't escape, an ice wall erupted from the ground, intercepting the Gale Blade head-on. Under normal circumstances, a basic ice wall formed purely from mana should never be able to withstand multi-attribute magic. However, because Reg had forcibly altered the Gale Blade trajectory, its power had been drastically reduced. Even so, Reg still didn't believe Ariel could keep blocking his attacks with such cheap tricks. Standing his ground, Reg began chanting once more. This time, he intended to fire 3 consecutive Gale Blades, his specialty. If Ariel wanted to keep darting around, then all he had to do was seal off every possible escape route. And Reg certainly didn't believe she could rely on those ice walls again to stop his blades. Listen carefully, Ariel. Derek had once told her this. Mercenaries fight differently from nobles. They don't care about chivalrous victory. They care about winning. Period. And it's different from a typical noble magic duel. Even if you win, you might still be criticized. But even so, it gets the job done. Are you willing to learn that? Of course I am. This time I will win. Back in the present, Ariel began analyzing the situation exactly as Derek had taught her. She immediately channeled her mana and formed several additional ice pillars. Then, she started weaving through them, using the pillars as cover while sprinting between them. Although Reg's raw power far exceeded Ariel's, she never forgot Derek's lesson. Even when there's a gap in strength, victory is still possible. Because this wasn't a duel, it was a fight. And just as Derek had predicted, Reg was fundamentally inexperienced in real combat. By repeatedly forcing his Gale Blades to change trajectory, Reg burned through his mana, causing both speed and power to fall far below that of standard multi-attribute magic. That was the only reason Ariel managed to narrowly evade each attack. Derek had once told her, battle is about shaping the battlefield and exploiting every advantage available. In other words, do whatever it takes to win. Even inducing carelessness and false sense of security in your opponent can be turned into a weapon. Realizing she could no longer fully evade the attack, Ariel summoned her magic once more, raising an ice wall to block the incoming first-star magic, Gale Blade. However, Having awakened her magic only recently, the strain of such an intense magic duel was already beginning to take its toll on her. At that moment, Reg's voice rang out again that it's over. The instant she heard those words, Ariel turned her head sharply. The final Gale Blade Reg had released had already curved around the ice walls from behind. When the spell struck, the dueling platform was completely engulfed in smoke and dust, obscuring all visibility. Derek, however, showed no sign of panic. He trusted that Ariel would not fall so easily. The same could not be said for Grand Duchess Miliella, who sat rigidly in the stands. Ariel, Delron, what are you waiting for? End the duel at once and bring her back. At that moment, the Grand Duke spoke calmly. Return to your seat. The duel is not over. What are you saying? You saw it yourself? Ariel was hit by that spell. She wasn't. The Grand Duke replied evenly. General Pelorm's Aegis has not been activated. In truth, the Grand Duke's attention was not solely on the platform, that he was also watching Derek, seated quietly among the spectators. From beginning to end, Derek had not even blinked, as if everything unfolding before them was unfolding according to script. Meanwhile, with the duel still unresolved, Reg stepped into the lingering cloud of smoke. By all logic, Ariel should have been struck by the first star magic, Galeblade. Yet, General Pelorm's Aegis remained inactive. It was then that Reg caught sight of a familiar figure beneath the platform, through a narrow gap. Before he could react, the wooden boards beneath his feet let out a sharp creak. In the next instant, jagged ice pillars skewered upward from below the platform, startling Reg with the sudden ambush. Fortunately, his reflexes were quick enough. Only his cloak was pierced. Reg found it hard to believe that Ariel would actually hide beneath the dueling platform and launch an attack from below. According to the rules Delron had announced earlier, leaving the bounds of the platform should have resulted in an immediate defeat. Yet, judging by Delron's expression, Ariel's actions did not violate the rules of the magic duel. Even so, such an underhanded and primitive fighting style had never appeared in any noble duel before. As that thought crossed Reg's mind, the wooden boards beneath his feet creaked once again. Though he looked somewhat disheveled, Reg narrowly avoided the ice spike that burst upward. But it was far from over. Almost instantly, 3 more ice pillars erupted beside him. There was no doubt about it. Every attack rising from beneath the platform was aimed squarely at Reg. These strikes were impossible to predict and nearly invisible, and a single clean hit would mean immediate defeat. At that moment, there was not a trace of noble grace left in Ariel. It was then that Reg finally located her hiding beneath the platform. Only then did he truly see Ariel's eyes. There was no emotion in them at all. This was not the gaze Ariel was supposed to have. And yet, Reg felt he had seen that look somewhere before. The answer came quickly. The same eyes had belonged to the mercenary who showed no reaction even when Valerian grabbed him by the collar. Only then did Reg realize that Ariel's tactics bore the undeniable stench by her magic tutor's influence. Since the truth was now clear, there was no reason for Reg to keep up his noble airs. Without hesitation, he tore off the cloak hanging from his back. If Ariel had abandoned the chivalrous ideals of noble duels and chosen to fight solely for victory, then he would respond in kind. Because of Ariel's decision, Reg cast aside the aristocratic demeanor he had always upheld. What on earth is this? Crawling under the platform. It's wretched down there. Dear, what are you doing? Stop them at once. Ariel hasn't broken any rules. Let the duel continue. Having spent his youth on actual battlefields, the Grand Duke Duprian showed no sign of surprise. Resting his chin on his hand, he silently observed the duel below. Meanwhile, hidden beneath the dueling platform, Ariel was not attacking at random. She was carefully observing the changes above, more precisely, the flow of mana. The moment Reg began chanting, Ariel could trace his position through the shifting currents of mana. That left Reg with only 2 choices: interrupt his chant to evade, or forcibly switch from offensive magic to defensive spells. In this tense standoff, Reg quickly realized Ariel's true intent. She was deliberately depleting his reserves. But it was at that very moment that Reg discovered a way to break the deadlock. At the same time, Ariel noticed that the mana flow across the arena had suddenly vanished. She immediately sensed a scheme, but regardless of Reg's intentions, all she needed to do was keep disrupting his chanting. Even Delron couldn't hide his surprise upon noticing Reg's sudden change in behavior. Reg had already climbed up the flagpole bearing the Duprian family crest. From that position, it would be nearly impossible for Ariel to detect the mana fluctuations of his chant. At the same time, Reg could no longer complete his chant properly. The only solution left was to smash the dueling platform itself, leaving Ariel with nowhere to hide. Without hesitation, Reg condensed his mana and fired a mana arrow straight at the base of the flagpole. The impact sent the pole crashing down, the family crest clattering as it fell. Seizing the moment, Reg leapt onto the collapsing pole. His plan was simple. As the flagpole shattered the platform, he would drop straight down beneath it as well. Miliella froze at the sight. She never imagined that the son she was so proud of would resort to such tactics. But Reg no longer cared about anyone else's opinion. The moment he landed beneath the platform, he began scanning the area for Ariel. Through the swirling dust, he quickly spotted a fast-moving silhouette. Without a second thought, Reg unleashed another mana arrow. The instant it flew, Ariel sensed the violent fluctuation of mana around her. She instinctively tried to draw out mana to form another ice pillar, but she soon realized her reserves were nearly depleted. She could no longer cast spells and had to recover mana while evading. Fortunately, the thick dust cloud caused Reg's mana arrow to veer slightly off course. What truly caught Reg off guard was that Ariel was closing the distance instead of retreating. One clean hit would have ending the match. Instead, Ariel abandoned magic altogether and planted a heavy kick straight into his chest. In that instant, Reg saw it again in her eyes. The murderous intent he had witnessed countless times in his youth, the gaze of someone who would do anything to achieve her goal. The blow landed squarely, knocking the breath from Reg's lungs. But what Reg didn't expect was that the real follow-up came next. Ariel scooped up a handful of dirt and flung it directly into his face. Even though Reg noticed her intention instantly, she still managed to exploit that fleeting opening. Seizing the chance, Ariel climbed back up onto the platform using the fallen flagpole. Her action made one thing clear to Reg. Her mana was completely drained. From the way she stood, Reg could read her resolve without effort. I want a W, no matter the cost, I'll prove my worth through victory. Ariel's actions ignited Reg's fighting spirit, but not as an opponent, but as her brother. When Reg climbed back onto the platform, Ariel was already standing there, watching him in silence. Her body was stained with blood, yet her gaze was ferocious beyond belief. At that moment, Ariel remembered what Derek had taught her that night. Picture a city being painted with sweeping strokes. Mana is the pigment. Incantations are the brush. Gather the scattered colors with the brush and complete the painting. That is magic. Beneath the night sky, the white-haired youth born of the mercenary life had spoken those words. With eyes filled with starlight, the girl first felt the urge to paint the world itself. The starry sky that night, the mana flowing through the air, and the white-haired boy beside her. She wanted to capture it all. As she closed her eyes, the scene from that night resurfaced vividly before Ariel. Scraping the bottom of her mana poela within her, she imagined painting across a vast canvas with her fingertips. Before she realized it, the mana in the air responded to her call, converging at her fingertips, carrying a chilling sensation with it. Ariel's very first creation was about to be born. The instant the girl opened her eyes, she unleashed her first ever transcendent spell that a spear of ice radiating bone-chilling cold formed at her side. First star magic, Ice Spear. The sight made Delon visibly flinch. "My dear, look, it's first star magic." Ariel cast first star magic. "An ice spear, you finally did it." The moment the ice spear appeared, no one around the platform dared to interfere with the duel any longer. Reg, meanwhile, swore silently to offer his sister the most serious response he could. Without hesitation, he formed several mana arrows at once. Even with Ariel wielding first star magic, Reg still believed the outcome would not change. The instant the ice spear fully took shape, Ariel drove it forward, launching it straight at Reg. At nearly the same moment, Reg released every magic arrow surrounding him. The two first star spells collided head-on at the center of the platform, triggering a violent explosion as dust swallowed the arena once more. In that moment, Miliella's heart was filled with worry for her youngest daughter. As the dust slowly cleared, a General Palorum's aegis manifested within the arena, signaling the end of the duel. Both Ariel and Reg found their own answers from this clash. And as the smoke dispersed, the duel that would decide Derek's fate finally revealed its answer.